What's going on, guys? Welcome to Jedi Survivor on an Xbox Series X. This is in performance mode, and unfortunately I don't think this game performs as well as it could. In fact, not even close in many circumstances. I'm recording this in 4K, or at least this footage was recorded in 4K, so anything that you're going to see on screen is nothing to do with how I recorded it. It's all how the game looks, actual gameplay. So, this is kind of depressing. This is not the video I wanted to make about this game, but I feel that these things need to be talked about and shown. And the current state of this game, on console anyway, is just terrible, quite frankly. I know the PC port has gotten all the attention online, which is the big reason why I bought it on Xbox. But from what I've read, the PS5 version has similar, if not the exact same issues. And so, I ended up getting the Series X version thinking, well, generally the Series X is slightly more powerful than the PS5, so it might run a little bit better. What I found was that the performance mode is just terrible. The resolution drops, the frame drops. It's not a good experience, and I want to share a little bit of that with you guys today. So this is the opening scene of the game. Obviously minor spoilers for anyone who has not played. If you're watching this, I would advise not watching it unless you are concerned about these issues. So when the game is paused like this, and it is paused, obviously I have the video paused, but in-game it is paused, the resolution and everything is cranked up. So what they claim is that the performance target is 1440p. I think the only time the game is hitting 1440p is truly when it pauses in this instance. There's a couple other scenes where you'll have these little tutorial things pop up and the game pauses, and you can actually visually see the character models on screen come into focus. So you can see the dynamic resolution scaling is in effect here. And that's, I really think, what the culprit is because when action kicks off, you'll see everything goes fuzzy. Everything goes blurry, everything goes pixelated. And I think it's some form of, I don't know if it's a really weird version of DLSS, or because in my experience, DLSS seems to work better than that. However, dynamic resolution scaling is constantly adjusting the resolution based on the frame rate target. And that's kind of what it looks like is happening here. So I want to go ahead and play this, and I want you to keep an eye on the stormtroopers. The camera is going to pan to the right, and you'll hopefully be able to notice it, but the stormtrooper will be blurry at first, and then he comes into focus. And it's really clear when it comes back to the left stormtrooper, he'll be blurry, and then he'll come into focus. And that's just a very minor example of what's happening here. So again, comes into focus, looks pretty good. Blurry, comes into focus, looks pretty good now, and the action kicks off. Now, if you pay close attention, hopefully you're not watching this on a phone, because it's much easier to see this on a TV or a monitor. The lack of detail on the character models during action sequences is just, quite frankly, it's some of the worst that I've seen. Just the lack of detail on Cal here. It's so blurry and so pixelated. You can see aliasing here in the background. And just so you know, no, motion blur is turned off. I turned all that crap off, so there's no post-processing going on here. This is all how the game runs on Series X. And I presume it's also how it runs on PS5. So I can't verify that, but from what I've seen online, there's performance issues there as well. So this is trying to maintain 60 frames per second. I'm just going to tell you from my experience, it rarely ever hits 60 frames. It felt far more like it was hovering in the high 30s to even 40s and peaking in the low 50s. I had no way to verify that because I'm playing on console, so I don't have a frame rate count or anything, but look at this right here. Look how pixelated this is. Obviously the distance doesn't look good, some of the edges around the ship doesn't look good. But it's really, for me, it comes down to the character models, the stormtroopers, how blurry they look, Cal, how blurry he looks. You would at least think the up-close models would be good, the ground, the characters, the things that are engaging close to the screen, you would think would be clear. And everything out here would be what, suffers. We see some aggressive pop-in right there. I don't know if you caught that. I'm going to back it up. Pay attention to Cal as well as the background. Really aggressive pop-in on him as well as the floor and even the ship here. So this is just the beginning, but this was not a good first impression playing the game. I was really concerned going forward, and yeah, unfortunately it doesn't get any better. So we're going to fast forward. I'm going to show you some other scenes, and I'll catch up with you then. Alright, so now we're indoor, and I want to showcase some weird ghosting that happens. I've tested this in quality mode, so the 30 frames per second mode, it still happens there as well, so it doesn't matter what mode you're in, you're going to get this weird outline ghosting. And it happens mainly when you're moving, panning the camera against a background, so obviously you have kind of a grayish background back here, and when you slowly pan the camera, you really notice this trail that follows behind Cal. Right here. It's really obvious indoors, and unfortunately you would think also indoors that the performance would be significantly better. Less textures, less everything to reproduce, but no. The game still struggles to 60 frames per second, and the character models are still a blurry mess. So that's another issue I noticed was the ghosting. At least that's what I'm calling it. I don't know if that's actually what it is, but to me it looks like it, because it's this outline that's trailing behind the character, and it's just really weird. It's really jarring. Anyway, we're going to skip forward, and I'm going to show you something else here. All right, here's a small little section I want to showcase again, just to show you how bad this game can look at times. And again, I just want to remind you, this is Series X performance mode. It's supposed to be targeting 1440p. I don't think it ever hits 1440p. In fact, I'd be surprised if it ever hits 1080p. I am recording this at 4K through OBS. That does not mean the game is running in 4K. I mean, technically, the Series X is set for 4K, but that does not mean the in-game resolution is 4K. However, my recording settings have nothing to do with the in-game resolution. That just means that I'm recording at 4K, which means if this was a 4K image, it could actually display the 4K image. This is not a 4K image. This is most likely a sub 1080p image. But I want to play this little short section here as he jumps between these poles, and just look at the ground that he's going to appear, as well as the walls and everything. And you're going to notice some really bad aliasing. Oh my gosh, did you see that? It's not good. Anytime you have small little lines like in grates, in fact, right here would be a perfect time to pause it. If I can get it to where the game is not blurring it. So again, perfect example. When the game pauses, you can see everything come into focus. This is when it actually looks good. The textures on his shirt look good. The stormtroopers look good. There's actually decent detail in the environment. This is how I would expect it to look in performance mode. It's definitely not 4K, but it still looks pretty good. This is probably relative 1440p. So they can get away with claiming the 1440p target for performance mode, yeah, but that's only happening when the game stops like this. Again, I can't verify that, but just to my eye, that's the only time it ever looks clear enough to be 1440. Now, what just happened here, it's blurry because I did the slow time effect, so that's not the actual game, that's just the effect of the force ability. In a second, I'm going to show you a stormtrooper, though, off in the distance that basically has no detail at all. Okay, so this guy up here is shooting at us. I'll let it go for another second, because there's some motion blur when it moves. Okay, so you can't even hardly tell. This is a stormtrooper. I mean, obviously you know it is, but you can't even hardly see him. This is all blurred. This is terrible. I mean, this again looks like a painting. I'll let it play again, get a different shot. Terrible, no detail. Terrible detail. When you move, you can see tons of aliasing on the lights and everything back here, even on the railing. Obviously, look at Cal's model. I don't know what this weird shimmering is around his model, the outline, but it's really bad. Even BD8, there's no clarity on the character. Okay, again, terrible. Stormtrooper now dead. We move up here, and we're going to start talking about, in my opinion, the most egregious example of these issues. This is actually where I get into some of the issues with Cal's face. If you pay attention here, you can see just how pixelated it is. It looks terrible. Look how blurry and muddy this is. And I'm not even doing anything. I'm just standing still. Or I'm just walking, but I'm trying to get a good shot here. Look at that. So it's really disappointing. I first thought that maybe it was this area, because obviously it's a big, open, expansive area. But this is just bad. I mean, it's so bad. I ended up researching to see if it got any better in the later levels, and people were still reporting performance issues in the next couple levels. So I have not played past Coruscant, but if the game in its entirety is this bad, honestly, we're probably going to be waiting for a while to see if they can patch some of these issues. Because right now, I don't recommend this game, whether it's on PC or console, unless you're just desperate for a Star Wars adventure. This thing runs like shit, to be honest. It doesn't look good. It doesn't even hit 60 frames per second half the time. And it's a terribly optimized game. And I hate to say that because I really like Respawn and what they do. But probably going to wait a few weeks, give it a couple months, see if Respawn can fix some of these performance issues. And but yeah, it's rough. I don't recommend it for those of you who are on the fence. If you've already got it and you are just watching this video for the heck of it, I mean, hey, tell me what your experience has been. I'll be curious to hear what you've noticed. But this is my experience. I'm playing on a 42-inch TV, sitting about probably 6 feet away from my desk. I do have a 42-inch OLED on my desk, so it is a larger screen. So some of these issues are going to be more magnified for me than if you were playing on like a 27-inch or a 24-inch monitor. It would be a little bit less noticeable. However, I still think, especially if you're playing it in your living room on a TV, like a large screen TV, you're going to notice a lot of this stuff. But yeah, just want to let you know this is how Jedi Survivor looks on Series X. Performance mode, very disappointing. Not at all what I expected. It looks worse than Fallen Order. And I'm hoping Respawn can get this thing patched up and ready to go at least in the next few weeks or maybe a couple months. But certainly hoping we can get better looks and clarity and performance out of this, because this is bad. Not only with how it runs performance-wise in terms of frames per second, but obviously the visual fidelity could be way improved. So, all right, guys, I will catch you later.